A very good evening. You're watching India Today. I'm Nabila Jamal in Bengaluru. This is where the entire state is currently simmering over the hijab controversy. I have with me a bunch of people, concerned citizens from different fields who've approached the Karnataka government. The PU board have in fact submitted a memorandum requesting for this commotion to end at the earliest, for the government to give out instructions on which are the colleges that should maintain status quo and which colleges and schools can continue as functioning like they were before. I'm going to cut across to all those details, but let's take a look at our top focus.
Tension, anger and emotions run high. Hijab or kitab? The big debate rages on. Students' future hanging by a thread. Students await clarity as the hearing continues. Hijab heat reaching point of no return. How long will hijab war stretch on for? Hijab fire rages on.
In fact, we're seeing this much commotion happening still outside several educational institutions. We saw arguments that took place today between students as well as the police personnel who are there to ensure security. Many of those police personnel trying to implement the High Court's interim order, saying you are not allowed inside with the hijab. And the kind of scuffle that we saw between students and the police was very unfortunate. In fact, the confusion here is, are hijab girls allowed to enter educational institutions or not? That's the question here. Karnataka citizens now, many concerned citizens, who I have a bunch of them right here with me, have written an open letter now to the Chief Minister of Karnataka on the misinterpretation of the Karnataka High Court's order. More than 700 people now have endorsed this letter, saying that there is no complete ban on the hijab in all educational institutions as we see unfolding. The letter says the interim order of the High Court is only applicable to those colleges and schools where there is a uniform prescribed by the College Development Committee. The letter further urging that the High Court proposal does not stand for those institutes where there is no College Development Committee or a prescribed uniform. The letter to the Karnataka Chief Justice there states that situation of fear and coercion is being now created and girls are being subjected to humiliation. Very, very sorry scenes there that we see unfolding in Karnataka today. Whatever the politics that we're seeing aside, leaving it aside for a moment, the sight of these young girls and their future left hanging in balance leaves us very, very worried and concerned. I have with me a bunch of them, concerned citizens who have submitted a memorandum to the PU board as well, asking a direction to be given out to these colleges so that they don't misinterpret the interim order of the High Court. Let me start with Vinay. Vinay is one of them spearheading it. Vinay, I'd like for you to tell us what exactly is in that memorandum and what's the chaos we're seeing here.
Nabila, the chaos is really distressing and unfortunate. What we're seeing is that the order of the Honorable High Court has been misinterpreted to push Muslim girls and teachers out of schools. The High Court order, which is over here, it's very clear in paragraph 11 that, this order is confined to such institutions where the college development committees have prescribed the student dress code and uniform. So what we saw earlier in the week was this started being applied to schools. The question of schools doesn't even come. It's a college development committee. School has a school development and monitoring committee. It doesn't have a college development committee, and still the order was misused to prevent girls from going inside, right? And on the other hand, even teachers, there is no discussion about teachers having to wear hijab. What is the law on that? Nothing, right? They're allowed to wear hijab. They've been wearing it. And the High Court order also applies very clearly where CDC has prescribed the uniform, means in the past, right? Before the High Court order where the CDC has prescribed it. But in spite of that, we see a slew of people, right? The police, the education department, people in the home department, and certain channels also in Karnataka taking the onus upon themselves, saying we have to implement the High Court order. We
see more like a blanket ban on hijab across government educational institutions. And this blanket ban is very surprising because you have girls who've been always wearing the hijab in these institutions and now suddenly they're being turned away. And to expect them to all of a sudden take off the hijab and enter class one fine day after many years of wearing it, Firdaus, there's a lot of talk about how regressive this practice is, how, suppressing it is over women, and how whether you were given a choice or not for you to decide on whether or not you wanted to wear the hijab from a young age. Maybe it was enforced on you. But do you believe that this conversation and this debate should be left out of educational institutions. Don't drag the young innocent girls into this.
First of all, I would like to clarify, Nabila, I was not forced to do it. In fact, sometimes when I used to go out, they used to tell me, please don't wear hijab when we are going out for parties, or things. My family tells me that. My husband also used to tell me that initially when I started. So there was no forcing, there was nothing. And plus, even whatever the conscience tells you, there should be no debate on that. If my conscience feels that it is a mandatory thing, let me allowed. I should be allowed.
It's all about a matter of choice for you. But this is what's unfolding. It's being said that it is being suppressive, regressive practice, and why you encouraging something like this for young girls, etc. But anyway, the point is that that's a debate to be held on a different platform with intellectuals, with experts, with lawyers, with the legal team, but not with children. What can you debate with children? How can you debate with children during examination time? Shashank, what's your memorandum really saying?
We have been asking for 3 or 4 major demands. The first one has been that the PU board must give a clarity as to which colleges have to implement this order and which not. That is the first thing that we have been asking. And in many instances, in many colleges and schools, we have come to know that these girls were kept out of their classes or just locked up in one of the classrooms and not allowed to take the classes, and they have also faced bullying by teachers and students alike. So it is the duty of the education department to own up to it and stop any such discriminatory practices in any of the institutions. That is also one of the demands that we have.
Own up to this. This is not a time to play dirty politics. Own up. Take responsibility for your kids. Whatever religion they are, they're your kids. They're our kids. Their future hangs in balance. This is examination time, and you can't leave them right at the gates crying, weeping, and going back home. In fact, many of them trying to fight with the police. The police are pushing, pulling, tug of war. It's so disappointing to see the scenes, and I can't believe that this is happening in the 21st century.
Yes, actually, what's even more disturbing to see today is that this entire thing has been state-sponsored. You see the police also, misrepresenting.
Why do you say it's state-sponsored? Because we just heard the Karnataka government saying that we haven't even directed any other institutions except for those that have CDC guidelines. So why are you blaming us? It's the opposition's fault. Why are you dragging us in the middle? We've been clear from the start. Those institutions with guidelines continue. So follow the interim order.
Yes, of course. There's a court directive, and even the GO, just recently also gave out a clarification. But is that happening on the ground reality? On the ground reality, it is very different. I mean, like, students are being made to remove the hijab in the road. Women students are made to just remove the hijab right in before the gates, and you see a lot of media also covering it. No, this is a question of dignity.
It certainly is humiliating. It can get humiliating undoubtedly for girls to take it off on the road. But then there was a provision made for them to go into another room and probably change in another room and then go to class. But this kind of situation unfolding, how do you see it?
I think it's a way of making Muslims second-class citizens, and Muslim women are facing indirect discrimination of this.
Why do you say indirect discrimination?
I read it in a case law where there's a concept of indirect discrimination, where the discrimination may not be direct, but it might come through something else.
Apart from what you're reading, what do you see happening?
Okay, I think it's being implied that if you are wearing a hijab, you're not an Indian, and if you're wearing a saffron clad, you are more Indian. But wearing a hijab doesn't make you less Indian. I believe in secularism, all right? Secularism is not no religions. It's about practicing all religions within limit. And you cannot take away people's right to practice, because nobody's perfect.
As much as you speak of secularism, they say that, if you're so secular, then why do you want to differentiate wearing a hijab? No, aren't you trying to separate yourself from the rest anyway?
I don't think that's what's happening. I think there is an experimenting with the identity you have inherited from your families, and you're experimenting. You're being exposed to other cultures in your educational institution, and that I think they're putting a restraint on that because they want some kind of yes men and yes women instead of people who have independent thought. And the first way of expressing independent thought is to first experiment with all the thoughts that you've been given, and they are taking away that right of practicing from children.
This is your choice to wear the hijab. How long have you been wearing it?
I've been wearing it since I was 9 years old.
Were you given a choice?
Yes. Nobody in my family wears hijab.
You're the only one in your family that wears it.
I started wearing it, and then I started explaining the concept to my friends and families, and they started wearing it.
So you encouraged your family to wear it at the age of 9?
I think I wore it for a few years. Then when I grew up and they started listening to me, they started valuing my opinions. That's when they started wearing the hijab.
All right. So there was no force by
No,
anyone
nobody.
on you.
Yeah, no.
All right. So, Vinay, what we see on ground and what the government's saying, that we have not interfered at all, but what's happening on ground, there's no interference there. Law and order situation has arisen in several districts of Karnataka, but there isn't a direction that's gone from the Karnataka government saying, listen, you've got to follow the interim order as it is. Don't make up your own rules and your own norms and issue a blanket ban.
I want to ask a simple question to the Karnataka Police. They went into schools and they pulled out girls wearing hijab. This has been reported in the media, saying that it violates the High Court order. The High Court order did not speak of teachers. So when college managements and school managements forced teachers to remove their hijab, then where was the police? First of all, the police does not have power to implement a High Court order like this. They don't have power to go into schools and start ask girls wearing hijab to come out. We've also seen instances where like women constables have hit girls wearing hijab on the head, right? And we've seen complete harassment by the police. My question is, who gave that power to this police? If there was no direction, let me assure you, if the police do not have a direction, they will not just simply rush to a school and say that, okay, there is a High Court order. There are several High Court orders. There are High Court orders saying potholes should be filled. Do we see police officials pulling BBMP officials out of the office and saying, come fill this pothole now? They didn't do it, right? So in this case, who told the police to go out to the schools and pull out the girls wearing hijab? Who told them to harass them? Who told them to speak to them rudely and discriminate them? Who told them to humiliate them? What is the Director General of Police of Karnataka doing? And what is the government of Karnataka doing?
No, but I have a question. Yeah, absolutely. I was just coming to that. What is the Child Rights Commission doing? Has the Child Rights Commission stepped in? Is there any word from the Child Rights Commission? Because you're looking at girls as young as 6, 7 or 8 all the way to their degree level who are currently being stopped right at gates. And parents are coming, accompanying them and going back home. Many of them are putting up a fight and they're now being branded.
Yeah, so the question is that, first of all, who gave the power to the police to do that? Then the Child Rights Commission, yesterday they've given a statement saying media should not violate child rights, right? Because there have been severe violations. But my question is, the Child Rights Commission, the Minorities Commission, the Human Rights Commission, they can all take suo moto cognizance of this issue. In fact, the High Court also should be taking suo moto cognizance of the issue. The open letter that you spoke about, that open letter precisely says this is a constitutional court. In a constitutional court, its duty is to protect the fundamental rights of the citizens as directed by the Constitution. So when there is a misinterpretation of the order of the High Court by state agencies to violate somebody's fundamental rights, and it has been brought to the notice of the court, why is there no action from the court? Why is there no action from the government? The government is seeing all these visuals every day.
Yeah, and we are seeing it every day, and that's why it leaves us so pained. We're seeing enough political backing. We know that it's instigated by some groups, and this could be politically motivated. There's polls in 5 poll-bound state, etc. But why at the cost of young children? Why kids have to suffer? Why do they have to suffer right weeks before their examinations? And that's our ask time and again on India Today, that why are you dragging innocent children into this dirty, ugly politics? Leave them out of it. Let them attend their examinations and complete this academic year. They've already lost out a year and a half in the pandemic. And this is just nuisance. And this is just so sad. Minority institutions in Karnataka by nature allowed Muslim girls to wear the hijab and enter classes all their life. Now, minority institutions, Muslim educational institutions run by the government have said, we are also not going to allow you to enter with the hijab inside. Which means we're looking at hundreds and thousands of girls' educational future at risk. How do you look at this? The minority department in Karnataka is now towing the interim order.
The minority might be doing it just out of fear. One is fear, and otherwise. One is fear, and maybe it is politically motivated also. So the other reason could be that. So, but basically what we have to understand is it was the responsibility of the PU board and the other officials that there should be peace at the campuses. When there was something like this, the PU board or other people should have should have come in and given the right directions to them, so that the dignity of the students and the education of the students is not compromised on that. So we should not compromise. Even the order is very clear that it should not be done. But the inquiry has to be done on why the misinterpretation was done by these government officials and by this.
Now, is there anything that you all are going to do or are hoping to look? I mean, you're looking forward to from the government. A quick word from you, because we see these scenes, ugly scenes unfold. No direction as yet, which means a few more days until the verdict is out. We're going to see this kind of commotion.
It is the duty of the government, as an elected government, to protect the fundamental rights. What we're instead seeing is a complete violation of fundamental rights. And like I said, children and teachers are being pushed out. In Tumkur today, a Muslim teacher resigned because she was forced to remove her hijab and her burqa. She's been wearing it since years. We expect the government to take notice of this. We expect the government to step in and take action. In fact, the government, it should have been the AG who brought it to the notice of the court, saying that, this, my lords, your order has been misinterpreted. Right. Instead, the AG is saying that, come give me petitions. Does not the AG or the government or the courts, are they not seeing what is happening? Are they not reading the newspapers?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the question, right? Visuals are unfolding, and that's what I want our viewers to see as well. A quick word as I come to that. I'm going to wrap with you. There's often a lot of talk about it's not hijab, it's burqa. You're talking about the entire covering. It's a burqa, it's not hijab. What is this hijab? What is hijab?
Hijab is headscarf. Also,
what you're wearing is the hijab?
Yeah, this is a hijab.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It took one of these. This is just a form of hijab. Hijab can take multiple forms. I think.
But in classrooms, it's just this. It's just the scarf.
Yeah, it's just the scarf along with the uniform.
Color
it's just an addition. Yeah, it's just an addition to the uniform.
You wear the burqa right till the gate, and then when you enter, you remove the burqa, and then you wear just the scarf.
My college has a black and white dress code, so I just wear a black hijab on top of the uniform. I don't exactly.
Not a burqa, basically.
No, most girls I've seen don't wear.
Yeah. All right. Now, what we saw in Karnataka today and over the last 6 days is really horrific, because you have young girls there having to have arguments with their own educational institutions, their own teachers, their own principals, their managements where they were so great with each other at one point, today are crossing off. These visuals here that are coming in from different parts of Karnataka show really tense scenes between students and even police officials who are trying to implement this interim order. Everyone's hands are tied. Let's take a quick look.
Hijab is our right.
Anger in campuses.
We want justice.
Postponement of exams. Uncertainty and chaos. The protests over hijab is showing no signs of dying down.
We want justice.
In Kodagu, several students staged a protest outside a government college against the ban on hijab. In Chitradurg, there were heated arguments between students and the local police. There was high drama at Milagros College of Udupi, where several Muslim students staged a protest outside the college, alleging they were not allowed to write exams in hijab.
Now the exams are going on, and headmaster, principal is like, you can come to college, you can go anywhere in college, just if you want to enter the class, if you want to write exam, or if you want to sit inside the class, you will have to remove the hijab.
बाहर इसलिए क्योंकि हमको हिजाब अलाउड नहीं है क्लास के अंदर. वो प्रिंसिपल बोले है कि अगर क्लास के अंदर आने का है तो आपको हिजाब निकालना पड़ेगा. वो हम नहीं मान रहे.
It's not in their hand. It's a government rule, right? It's a court rule. Until court order, they can't do anything. It's not in their hand.
After 3 years of working as an English lecturer at the JNPU College in Bengaluru, Chandni resigned from her post, citing the hijab ban as the reason.
ಈ 3 ವರ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಏನೂ ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಆರಾಮ್ಸೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಬಟ್ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಸರ್ ಕರೆದು ನಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಸಿಂಬಲ್ಸ್ನ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಪಡಿಸಂತೆ, ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡದಂತೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಮಗೆ ಆರ್ಡರ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು 3 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡು ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿಗೆ ಧಕ್ಕೆ ಆಯಿತು. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಸ್ವತಃವಾಗಿ ರಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
Far from getting subdued, the fire is only spreading. There was chaotic scenes outside a college in Vijaypura, with students claiming women with tilak on their forehead were not being allowed to enter. In the Karnataka High Court, the hijab case continued to be debated. The petitioner in the High Court sought freedom for Muslim students to wear the hijabs at least on Fridays and during the holy month of Ramzan. There was also a fresh controversy. On Thursday, the Karnataka government issued a fresh notification stating that the High Court's proposal of no hijab inside classrooms also applied to minority-run schools. Leader of opposition Siddaramaiah said that the order was against the court order and that he had spoken to Chief Minister Bommai to withdraw the notification.
The students of the minority department, they are totally disturbed today. Their parents are disturbed today. So we demanded the withdrawal of the Chief Minister told me that he will take up the meeting with Manivandan and others.
Now, with many educational institutions still not willing to allow students as well as teaching staff to wear a hijab or any other religious attire and enter the campus, banners such as these mentioning the interim order of the Karnataka High Court have been put up across the state in order to avoid confrontation as much as possible. With video journalist Madhuar, Nolan Pinto for India Today in Shivamoga.